I want you to be able to watch this series and build a fully functional Airtable base for your record label by yourself. In the spirit of that, I don't want to be building on this base off camera. I don't want to be making tweaks and improvements to it without creating a video about it so that you know exactly what's going on. Because of that, this video is going to be somewhat of a cleanup video, or call it maybe some special sauce that we're going to add to this base. Hopefully it's going to be short, and I'm going to show you some things that are certainly necessary, required, but also pretty cool about how Airtable works and things that I would do to make this better. So here we go. The first thing is let's add some buttons. So we've got these releases, but how do you add a new release? Get into the editor, click this Add Records Through form. Now while we're here, let's clean this up. I never use group. It's a new feature. I don't like it. I never use print, so let's turn those off. Sort, search, filter, that's fine. But we need this button now. Hit the gear, and let's open up the editor of the button. I like to call it Add Release, capital R. Edit the form. Now it opens up this pop-up form, which is excellent. Let's call it Add Release. Add Release. Okay. I'm not quite sure why the date is a long text field, so we need to clean that up first. So come back into the data layer. Release date needs to be a date. 100%. Should not affect anything. Cool. Great. So we've got a title. Title, honestly, should not be long text either. I guess that came in that way in the merge. So let's fix it. So here we go. We've got artist, title, format, date. Reporting, that's not something that comes in on the form, and then none of this stuff comes in on the form either. So it's just going to be those fields. Artist is certainly required. Now I'm going to change the name of this field to main artist. And that's because I know that in the future, we're going to need to add side artists. We're going to need to add featured artists. So there needs to be this very specific linked record field to the main artist. That's the one that we, the record label, owns. Other artists, side artists, featured artists, will live in the base as well, but this one is the main artist. Awesome. So let's now say title definitely is required. Format, definitely required. And release date, not necessarily required, but of course, it's best to have a release date. Okay, cool. There you go. That's secret sauce number 1. You got a button now. You can add a release. Let's go to it. Let's do it. And this is going to lead us actually right into our secret sauce number 2. Okay, so we pick an artist, let's say Lance Cotton. And we'll say Lance Dance, name of the song. Format is a single. The release date is, let's say, June or July 12th. Create. Now let's go to July 12th week in the table, and you'll see it's not there. Why not? Because this list view is using that hierarchy we talked about in part 1 to group the child records, call it the release records, by week, because that's what we do in the music business, is we operate in weeks. But in order to get the linked record between the reporting week and the release, I did it manually in part 1 of the video. It needs to happen automatically. It also needs to happen if you change the release date. The reporting week needs to change. So we need to install an automation in order to get that done. Now, if we scroll to the very, very bottom of this, you'll see it's Lance Cotton, right? It's because no level 2 record has been assigned. So no reporting record has been assigned. So it's down here, just orphaned into the ether. So, first of all, let's find it, Lance Cotton. And you'll see, back from part 1, we have this formula field, right? Super fancy. I asked you guys if you want it. Anybody who wants it, just let me know in the comments. DM me, whatever, and I'll send this to you. But it's an important formula that takes any date and pushes it towards the most recent or the upcoming Friday to group it. This essentially needs to be copied into this field. I just did a copy and paste every time a new release is created. Furthermore, if a new release date changes, let's say this release moves from July 25th to August 2nd, notice the release week did not change. Okay, so we can find this Angel Living Lavish release still in the July 26th week. That's not what we want either. We need it to be in a new release week. So we need to create another automation that says if the release date is updated, basically copy and paste this value into the reporting linked record field. And there we go. So here we go. It's our first automation. So let's come into the automations tab. So here you have data, automations, interfaces. We've explored data. We've explored automations. Here's interfaces. We've explored data, interfaces. Here's automations. So let's call this, I like to put like some type of unique identifier in here. So I'm going to call it R for releases, 1.0 for a number, and then some type of description about it. So I'm going to say new release gets reporting. So we have triggers and we have actions. For more about how automations work, just type it into YouTube. I'm going to try to move a little faster on this. So we've got triggers and actions. The trigger is going to be when record matches conditions. In this case, when a release, right? So what table are we talking about? What are the conditions? We'll just say like where release date is not empty. And then let's say maybe main artist is not empty. And then title is not empty. And since those fields were required in the form we just built, you know that when someone uses the form, it's going to end up triggering this automation. Okay. And then there's actions. So the trigger is the thing that happens based on conditions. The action is what you are trying to do. You saw me copy and paste value from one field to another. So we're essentially going to create an automation that does that for us. So it's going to be update record. This is the action that's going to get taken. It's going to get taken in the releases table on the specific record from which the automation was triggered. So we're going to select this. This is the trigger record, and we're going to say insert the value from the Airtable record ID. So it's going to say do this thing to the release that the automation triggered from. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to update certain fields, and we're going to update the reporting field with the value from the week field. Boom. That's the copy and paste. So now we're going to turn that on. But before we leave the automations editor, we're going to do another one. And I'll call this one R1.1. And I'm going to say change release date updates. Let's make it a little better. Change in release date updates reporting. Okay. Now the new trigger is when record is updated. Pause for a moment. When you're using when record matches conditions, it handles and solves for new records that come in. But just saying when the record is updated will not trigger when a new thing comes in. It has to have been existing and then has to change. This is why we need these two automations. Back to the releases table. No view. The field is going to say week. So week is a formula of the release date. So we can just say when the week changes, do the thing. And we're going to do the same thing. Update record. In the releases table, the same record from the trigger. So we're going to select the Airtable record ID from this trigger, right? Use data from here. Select that. And then do the same exact thing. Reporting gets the week value. Boom. Turn that on. And now let's go back to the interface here. So let's say Living Lavish goes back to July 26th. Let's say 24th. Watch. An automation is going to kick in, and it's going to put it into this bucket. Boom. There you go. Living Lavish is there. Now, let's clean something up in here. We don't want this week reporting record showing up if there's no data there, so we have to select this, hide sections with no rows. So let's select that, and you see it goes away. And then let's just, for the sake of the demo, let's do one of these now. Let's add another release. Let's say Dawn of the Dead. Format is album. Release date is July 12th. Create. Now come on, you'll see it coming up in July 5th. There it is, Dawn, Shaun of the Dead. It has the reporting record. Now you come in here and you see Dawn, Shaun of the Dead. It has the reporting. How did it get it? Hit the space bar. Look at the revision history here, and you'll see I created the release 14 seconds ago, but then a second later, that automation, R1.0, copied and pasted for me. Super, super powerful stuff. Next and last thing we're going to do in this special sauce video is clean up this finance surveillance thing. So we have the budget tracker. There was one thing I wanted to do, but kind of like felt the last video went a little bit over. Let's just stack these a little different. Okay, we've got marketing budget actual. We've got A&R budget actual, digital budget actual, publicity budget actual, total budget actual. Boom, like that. Okay, the graph, sure. Put a name on the graph. We'll say actual spend by bucket, maybe. I don't know. Perfect. This I like the row height to be short, so let's select short. Helps us a little bit. And that's it for that. Then this artist thing, right? This was me basically showing you how a senior manager can set budgets and allow the frontline marketing or whomever to spend against those budgets, but know in real time where they stand. So we were able to get as far as putting in the actual numbers. So actual, marketing actual, digital actual, publicity actual. Let's go into the artist table and see how far we got at the data layer. Okay, we didn't do yet a totals field, so let's duplicate this. We'll say total actual, and this is basically a sum of the total actual field. And then we want currency fields. So we'll insert right, and we'll call this marketing budget. We want currency fields for each, for marketing, for A&R, publicity, and digital. Publicity and digital, right? That's it. Cool. And those are just currency fields. Back to the interface layer. We can get rid of this automations page. Let's put those fields in here. So it's this, 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 this. Let's arrange them properly. I like marketing at the top. I'm a marketing native, if you will. So let's go marketing, marketing, A&R, A&R, digital, digital, publicity, publicity, total actual. Now we need another field, actually. We need one that's called total budget, and this one's going to be a formula. It's going to take all the budget fields that we have there. So marketing budget plus A&R budget plus publicity budget plus digital budget. And it's going to put it in there. So we've got total budget, total actual. So let's zoom back out on this for a second. Oh, yeah, hold on. Let's make this, allow for this, us to edit records in line. And let's stay right there. Okay, so now you're a marketing person or you're the director of the department or something. You come in here. Now listen, you're the one with access to this page. Regular frontline marketing people who don't need to surveil over the artist's budgets don't have access to this page. But we give it to the senior folks. And you've got Dan Don, and you say, okay, I'm setting Dan Don with $15,000 in marketing. I'm setting him with $21,000 in A&R, and so on and so forth. And then you've got the totals showing up here, and you've got the money. For instance, let's say I set digital budget at $5,000, $5,200. You already know you're over, right? $8,000 has been spent, and then publicity, let's say, is $3,000. Now let's do a small amount of cleanup on this total budget field. Let's go into the formatting. Let's make it currency. Super powerful there. So now you see all that. And somebody can come in here and surveil everything that they need. Lastly, let's call this now, let's just change the name. Surveillance, we'll call this like budget surveillance. Maybe that's spelled right. Lastly, go back to budget tracker. Now this is a tool that we do give access to the frontline people. Now they don't get this. They don't get to tell us what the budget is. They only get to observe what the budget is. So let's find that Don thing. Cool. And let's say the marketing budget is a view-only field. A&R budget is now a view-only field. Digital is view-only. Publicity is view-only. And I'm also realizing that we're going to need to put this information in the detail screen. Dan Don, Dawn of the Dead. Okay. We're going to need all that information here, so let's quickly just throw it in. So we've got marketing actual, marketing budget, A&R actual, A&R budget, and so on and so forth. I'll end the video here in the interest of time and maybe do another cleanup after a couple more build videos. But nonetheless, you get the point, you get the power of it. We're now able to see the budget versus the actual at any slice, the release or the artist slice, and compare it in real time and make our decisions super quick. Thanks for watching.